Test, test. Hey, let's talk about it live today. How to share your personal story, the power of it for branding. Let me turn this off. It's cold in here. Got the heater on. How's everybody doing today? Hope you're doing fine wherever you are in the world right now. Let's give everybody a couple of seconds to tune in. But while we wait for people to tune in, give a shout out. Where are you from? Where you at in the world? I'm over here in Fort Irwin, California. Fort Irwin, yeah. That's in the middle of the Mojave Desert. And my wife's in the military. Most of you know that. And we move around a lot. This is what, our 8th or 9th, maybe even 10th place in the last 18, 19 years. So we've been around the block. And one of the things I recognize, having moved so many times over the years, is that the capacity to brand yourself and to put your story forward, especially in a local community, is the most powerful tool you can have. The most powerful tool. And it extends itself online. Because when that personal brand and that story connects with people, you put it in a position where you can stand out. You're different. All right, Linda, Miss Linda. Oh my God, I haven't heard from you in a minute. How is everything? Miss Wilson, DTM, out here in Lenexa, Kansas. I lived in Kansas, Fort Leavenworth. Yeah. Shout out to you. Hope all is well. Anybody else? Where you at? What city you repping? But wherever you touch down, this is the importance of your story. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, the skill and talent that you bring to the table is magnified when you have a personal story attached to it. Whether that's as a leader inside of your organization, whether that's in a business as an entrepreneur, whether that's even in your relationships with your significant other and your children, them knowing who you are, what you are about, and you able to communicate that, the essence of who you are, is a personally powerful thing. All right, but story. So everybody out there, we got some people from Kansas in the building. Kenny, I don't know if you're still on. Where are you repping these days? All right. Well, when you jump on wherever you are, make sure you rep your city, rep where you at. Let the world know how you're doing today. But we have about 25 minutes left in this live, so let's jump into it. Brand. Why brand is so important? Let me change the slide here. Let's get into brand for your business and personal. One of the things that I come across a lot when talking to people about their story is they have a hang up and think that it has no relevance to their business. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners, and even leaders. And that's one of the biggest things. One, I don't have a story, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Yes, you do. But number two, my story isn't relevant to what I do. I own this business, right? But my personal story, how does that connect? No one wants to hear that. It's not relevant. Or if I'm a leader in an organization, look, my story, what I believe, what I've been through, is not relevant. Well, understand this. Brand value. And there's two types of values out there, right? The business value we bring to the table and our brand value. The business value is our function, right? Our utility, our capacity to do a thing. And the higher your business value, the more value you can deliver to your constituents, your clients, whoever you are connected with, the better. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter how good you are at what you do if people don't what? Connect. They got to connect. And that's where brand value comes in. Brand value is the emotional connection that moves us from functions and features to feeling. When we feel a certain way about someone, it changes everything. It magnifies, multiplies business value. So that's why it's so important for us to understand the distinction when we're talking about branding and building our value proposition to whoever we're communicating with. On the business side, we need to be really good at what we do, but we magnify and multiply that when we connect people personally to us, who we are as leaders, as people, as men, as women, right? So this is key. This is key. Really needed a time. Marva, when student is ready, the teacher will appear. I appreciate that. I appreciate that comment. Marva, where you at these days? KD, what city you repping? But yeah, so that's the importance of your brand, your personal story. It magnifies everything that you do. And the biggest fear beyond saying I don't have it and it's not relevant is that what will people think? What will people think? Who cares? Because one of the most powerful forces that our story has is that it will magnetize us to the things, the people, and the places that are for us, and it will push away the places, the people, and the things that are not for us. So if you're in the habit of wanting to please everyone, MD, all right, we may be moving out to Maryland in a couple of years when my wife retires. We're in the middle of the desert right now. Fort Irwin, my wife's most recent duty station. But yeah, DMV area is probably where we'll settle down. But when you getting back to it, when you are able to push and communicate powerfully your story, your values, who you are, what you believe, what you've been through, there are going to be people who are going to say, oh, they're going to go, oh my God, he's talking to me. And I'll give you an example. Just yesterday, I got a message from an entrepreneur on LinkedIn. And I had reached out to him, I think it was like 6 years ago, with a business proposition. Nothing, didn't hear anything. He messaged me and he told me his story. He was like, look, I wasn't ready then, but I'm ready now. My father passed away. I've had these issues. I had this going on. And I read your story about your brother passing and your journey as an entrepreneur. And it really resonated with me. You know, I'm looking for a coach and a mentor. Can you help me? He skipped over all of the business value that I could bring to the table. This is what I do, the X's and the O's. And he went straight to, I believe in you. And it was my story. Now, fast forward, there are plenty of people out there who say, I don't give a heck or a damn about your story. All I want is the business value. And guess what those people are? They're transactional. They're transactional. And you can make some money there. We're going to talk about that next week's training or tomorrow's training. Stay to the end. I'm going to tell you about that. We're going to talk about that, where we're talking about business value and how to make money today. But that's transactional. Brand is forever. It's repeat business. It's people who stay with you for years and years or even decades. You can pick up the phone and call them and be like, hey, X, how are you doing? Now, for many of you, you know, I've been away from the game for a whole year. I haven't been posting. I haven't been doing anything. And my last live last week, I talked about why. But as soon as I came back, I had an audience who was, you know, willing to embrace me. And that had to do with my brand, not my business value. All right. So I think we covered down on any questions on that brand, business versus personal. Any questions out there? How did you feel about that idea? Let me ask a question. You may be tuned in live, or you may be doing the restream. When we talk about the power of your story, I want you to put a 1 into the chat box if you are in the habit of sharing your story, or 2, if not so much. 1, if you share your story all the time and it's helping you, you know it, or 2, if you don't. I should have had a slide for this, but I just want to get a pulse here, right? Like how are you doing with sharing your story? 1, you share it often. It's powerful. You know its value. Number 2, not so much. You don't, right? Whether you're live streaming or you're doing the replay. And this is the follow-up question. We got a 1 by Rochelle. Kudos to you, Rochelle. Kudos. Here's the follow-up question after you answer that. For those of you who don't share your story, you probably, at the top of the segment, what did I say? You don't believe your story is relevant. You can't connect it to business value, and or you believe that you're going to push people away when you open up and share who you are. I see it time and time again. We don't share it because we aren't sure about it. But I want to encourage you to know this. There's power in your story. And we're going to get into how to do that in a second. But there's power in your story, like we talked about. It's going to magnetize and attract the right people to you. All right, we have a 2. Marva, you got a 2. Need to learn how to tell it. Stay to the end. I'm going to give you a 4-step formula on how to share your story and give you some resources to be able to do that. We have a framework that I've been teaching people for years on telling their story. Not only is it great for telling a story, it's great for writing a piece of content, writing a speech. It follows the psychological principles that we all are in tune to when we're listening to a great story being told. So the 4-step formula, we're going to go over that. But definitely, there's power in your story. But you got to believe. You got to know it. And I think once you give yourself the space in the room to acknowledge that, you started the process of leading your story. Because think about it. If you are on the fence about sharing your story, who you've been, who you are today, and where you're going, what does that say about your confidence in yourself? Right? And I'm not immune to that either. Depending on how I feel that day, I may be looking in the mirror and going, I don't know if I want to, my story is not relevant. In fact, full transparency, moment of transparency. We just finished wrapping me finally telling my story, one of my stories, and putting it on my new website, asaniX.com. Matter of fact, let me see if I can share it. Well, I'll share it toward the end, asaniX.com. And when I saw it, I cringed. I was like, I don't like that video. I don't like that story. It's important, it's connected, but I still, even to this day, and I've told it 1,000 times, I don't like hearing it. And why? There's a part of me that's like, that's not relevant. But it's waking up each day and reinforcing the idea that it is by sharing it and getting feedback from others who say, that's what I needed to hear. So when I heard that LinkedIn message about somebody who wanted to meet a coach and mentor him strictly based on my story, I was like, yes, there's a vote for that activity and that action. So know there's power in your story. Any questions here before we move on to next? The power of your story. Anybody have any questions that we can tune into? All right. Your story for business. Let's crack this nut real quick. Your story is super relevant to your business. Like I said at the top of the segment, when people can connect to you as a human being and start having some feeling, some emotional connection, they will more trust, like, and connect with you. Yeah, some lack confidence, Marva, but the main issue is how to know which part of my story to tell. We're going to get into that. Here's the bridge. We're going to talk about it in a second. Your story for business. So let's say, for example, Marva, if you're courageous enough, tell me what you're into today. What are you into today? What are you doing? Where do you see yourself potentially sharing your story? If I can chime in live on this one. Where would you like to share your story where you're maybe a little bit confused on which part to share? Well, while she comes up with that, the point I'm trying to make here is that your story is relevant because whatever you're trying to push and communicate and sell into the world, you got to be able to tell your story first. I'll give you a quick example. I was trying to close a $75,000 client deal. This was like 9 years ago. And the client was like not believing it at the end of the day. So I shared with her a story about me jumping into a cage and fighting professionally, overcoming my fear, and figuring out what it was that I was actually fighting for in life. My family, my kids, my wife, my brother who was murdered. Like I told that story, and then I asked her, I said, what are you fighting for? Almost immediately, she was like, I get it. She signed the contract, and we went on to do business and make a lot of money together. The story was the thing that brought her up closer to me and allowed her to trust and connect in a way that gave her faith beyond my business value that I could be of service to her. Yeah. Marvin says that's the issue. So many opportunities. All right. So let's jump into the next one. And for Linda, you said real estate. You want to be able to communicate it with real estate. Let's jump into it, the promotion side of it. When you start promoting your story and you start telling it and you get confident in your story and what the value proposition is, write this down. This is the kind of like basic version of your story. If you can boil it down to this: key word, key sentence, key story. 3 things. What is a key word in your story that summarizes who you are, what you're about, and what that story is trying to convey? What's the key word? And then what's the key sentence? The key sentence, the one sentence that if you said, people will be like, okay, I get it. And then there's a story associated with it, something that you've been through. And there are 3 power stories we do in our trainings, but we're talking about the one that just defines you, your founder story, like who you are. Key word, key sentence, key story. Once you have that mapped out, you're going to want to promote it. And you talk about all the opportunities that you have, or real estate. It doesn't matter, but you got to promote that story. So you have to find an opening, right, to be able to communicate it. For example, I remember back in the day, all the girls would play double dutch. You ever play double dutch? And double dutch, I could never get it. I tried every now and then, I would try it. They'd be like, you can't do it. And yes, I can. And then you find yourself like, all right, you got to find the rhythm. You got to find the rhythm as know when and where to jump in. And that's like 99% of it. And then you have to maintain the rhythm. The same thing goes with your story and promoting it. There's always a bridge or an opportunity to share it. For example, when you're talking to a client and you're talking about where they're from or what they're into or what have they experienced, why are they making the decision now, or when it's time to close. That's one of the best times to share a story, when it's time to close. A story that has relevance to them trusting, liking, and connecting with you, especially if you're a service provider like a real estate agent, or you're in the community trying to change people, trying to help people. They have to trust, like, and connect to you. Other opportunities to promote it is in content, sharing your story via video on LinkedIn and other places. Other places, the big right now for a lot of my clients is get booked on podcasts, get booked as a guest on other people's shows like this one. Because invariably, what are they going to ask? Tell me about yourself. What's your story? They're going to ask it. And then you can have a powerfully driven, well put together story and land well. So I would say that for Marva and for you, Linda, because I know you're a great communicator, I've heard you speak, that it's not a function of not having a story or not knowing how to tell a story or having too many opportunities. I think that's the story that stops us. That's the story. That's the real story, right? But there are some pragmatic, functional things we might want to talk about as relates to how to tell a story. So let's break that down. Then we're going to some Q&A to wrap up on how to share your personal story. There are 4 steps in our story formula when we're just training and helping people to put their story together. And at the end, I'll give you a number you can text to get a more in-depth training on this, and you can get a worksheet that will help you to walk through this process. But if you're taking notes, there are 4 steps to every great story. The first one is there's a problem. Every great story has a problem that leads to pain and put someone on their ass in a pit. Those are the best stories. I challenge you to find a story that's worth telling, remembering, or listening to that doesn't put the person who is experiencing it in a bind. In a bind. So when you ask yourself, trying to put together my story, what were some of the major problems, defining moments in my life where I experienced pain, high degrees of pain, and it put me on my ass into a deep, dark pit. Problem, pain, pit. That's the first thing. Every great movie, every great book, every great story you will hear has that. Now, you have to be comfortable with being able to share that. When I'm sharing stories about my problems, pain, and pit, it's about losing my brother. It's about the trauma and abuse of an overbearing father. It's about my lack of confidence in certain areas. It's about all of these things. That is the stuff that human connection is made out of. Are you willing to go there? Because that's the fastest and easiest way to connect. So once you have your problem, pain, and pit mapped out, your defining moment, the next thing is to talk about is the paradigm. This is step 2. And what is a paradigm? A paradigm is basically the way of thinking that kept you stuck, that caused you the problem. How were you thinking? What were the circumstances, right? The paradigm, the environment, the circumstances, and how you thought about yourself and your situation that facilitated you experiencing that problem, that pain, and that pit. And elucidate and talk about that. When I'm sharing my story, you go over to YouTube or my website and you hear my story, the paradigm was that I thought that leading, and for me, I was scared to lead. Definitely scared to lead. And I was willing to do whatever it took to succeed, but I was definitely scared to lead. And I realized that was my trap. So you share the trap, and then you share what it meant to uncover or to break free of that trap. I had to learn how to fight to believe in myself, that I had the duty, the responsibility, and the capacity to lead. And that was my opening. Every hero has to be opened up from the inside out. So there's a paradigm shift, a paradigm that kept you stuck, and a paradigm that opened you up to opportunity. What was that transition for you? And then that leads to the third part, which is power. These are all P's, by the way. Problems, pain, pit, number 1. Number 2, paradigm. And number 3, power. Every great hero, shero has to express power. They have to do something. So what did you do to get out of that pit? You see, the paradigm unlocks the mind, and it locks you emotionally. It's like getting the key to the jail cell, right? The jail cell door is open, but you're still what? Behind prison walls. So now you need to take steps to escape. The hero has to escape. So now you have to tell them blow by blow, how did you escape? What did you do? Because now the person is listening. They know that you had a problem, pain, and pit. They saw that you were stuck. They saw that you finally had an epiphany, a paradigm shift, and now they want to see how the hero escapes the trap. You have to tell them blow by blow. Chronological order. I did this, and this, and this, and this. Power, the steps that you took. And the last but not least is number 4, which is pleasure. Every great story ends on a high note. The hero, the shero gets something. A material prize, money, the girl, the man, right? But there's also an internal prize, the inner intrinsic prize of believing in oneself, being able to overcome the curse of an overbearing parent, getting the approval, living up to. There's that. That's more important. That's the existential, right? Cathartic breakthrough that people really want. The material prize is awesome, but it's that inner prize that people are looking for and connect to at an emotional level. What was it? So now that sounded like a lot, but it really is just 4 very simple parts to the story. the problem and the pain in the pit, the paradigm that kept you stuck, and the paradigm that unlocked, the power steps that you took to get out of the pit with this new paradigm, and then the pleasure. What did you get? And if you just write down the bullets for those 4 things, you have the making for sharing a pretty good story. All right? A really good story, because most people omit one or a few of those parts of the story. But that's the basic framework. All right? So I know that was a lot. I threw up all over you. What do you think? Like, any comments there as we close this out in the next few minutes around your personal story? Anything there? All right, well, you're processing it a little bit. If you are tuning in to the restream of this, do comment. I'm going to go back eventually and answer the comments, but let me share something with you. Where is it at? Not that one. Where is it? Here it is. Text to this number, and let me move this up. Text to this number right here, and put in the keyword "my story." And if you text me there, you'll get a mini training on this, walking you through this, going through an example, and then you also get a worksheet where you can work through this on your own time and just mapping out your story. So text to this number, 800-425-2095, and put in the keyword "my story" so I know exactly what it is you want to be sent to you. And that's my direct number. So if you have questions there, you can ask me. And let's get busy sharing our stories. You know, I'm so adamant about story because I definitely know that lives change when we share our story, because we're giving people the blueprint to escape their pits. And that's why story is so powerful. Everyone has pain. Everyone has problems. Everyone has a pit. So when you share your story and showing them a blueprint of how you escaped, the other side is like, okay, thank you. That was helpful. I know I'm not the only one. You had the courage to share it, and now you've opened my eyes on how to unlock my own prison. And that's the power of your story. Whether you're leading a team, a business, or even your kids. My kids know my story, or stories. I tell them to them all the time. So story development. Jennifer, where did Jennifer? She say, Jennifer says, "Thank you. This story development is so hard, but important to share." It is. It's the technical side is the easy part, right? The technical side of what it is to do to share your story is the easy part. You can find a framework, a hero framework, or whatever the case may be. That's easy. The hard part is just having the courage to do it. But I want to embolden you, wherever you are in listening to this, to share it. Even if it's just to close friends and family. Even if it's just holding a phone up to your face and saying, X told me to do it, or help push me to do this, and here it is, and share it. And I promise you, when you do that, you will see people open up and connect to you like never before. Like never before. And that's the power of story. So again, if you want more on this as we close up, text me at 800-425-2095, my story. You'll get the mini training for story and a worksheet to walk through that storytelling process. We've helped hundreds of people to map out and do their story. And it's a very simple tool, and it's very powerful for whatever reason or communication strategy you're trying to put forward. And lastly, let me put this up. Tomorrow, for you business owners out there, we will have another training called Stand Out, Differentiate, and Dominate. I'm going to be doing the whiteboard fires. Whiteboard fires are back. Yes, they're back. We're going to be talking about business and messaging and how to do that tomorrow, 10 a.m. So tune in for that. The whiteboards now, everybody knows my whiteboards, but I have a new whiteboard. Let me show you real quick. So we have a new whiteboard. If I can open it up. So we have a new whiteboard, digital whiteboard. Oh. So we have a new digital whiteboard. I'm excited to share on that bad boy all the stuff that we're working on to help businesses to grow through our whiteboard fires. So tune in tomorrow, 10 a.m., same channel, same time, different day, new message. Whiteboard fire is here. And thank you all for tuning in. I didn't ask anybody to give any love, any likes and comments and all that good stuff. I'm poor at asking for support. That's one of the things I said I would do in the new year. So if you haven't, and this has been of value, share some love. I appreciate it. Share some love. Yeah, I need it too. I need confirmation from time to time as well. Yeah, definitely listen again for the connection from business and personal. It's just finding the time to share it. There's always a time to share your story. You just have to find it and build a bridge to it. Your story, last thing, keyword, key sentence, key story. The key word is a characteristic, right? It's a character trait. So my keyword is the breakthrough. So no matter who I'm talking to, there's always an opportunity to break through. The team needs to break through. A client is not doing what the hell they're supposed to be doing, or they need a word of encouragement. I know it's time to put the breakthrough into effect. That's why it's good to have multiple stories, or the ability to tell that story framework in different ways through different opportunities or different scenarios. But once you know the story framework, you can build stories, create stories out of thin air based upon what's going on around you. But we'll leave that for another training. All right, I got to get out of here. Got another meeting coming up. But message me. Definitely text if you haven't already. One more time here. Where is it at? Here, my story, to get that story training and to get on our list for whenever we're doing more of these trainings. I appreciate every last one of you, and definitely take care. I'm out.